everyone. Welcome to Well Within Reach. And today we have two very special guests from the Thomas Jefferson University, Vicki and Jack Farber Institute for Neuroscience, which we are a part of that group as well. So we're the Vicki and Jack Farber Institute family here today. So from the David Farber ASPIRE Center. I'm going to have our guests introduce yourselves, and then we'll introduce our topic for today. Dr. Williams, you want to start?
Yes, so excited to be here. So I'm Dr. Daria Williams. I'm a psychologist over at the David Farber ASPIRE Center, and I primarily work with adolescents at the ASPIRE Center, and we are a suicide specialty clinic. So we support ages 12 and up, people who have had some history of suicidality or chronic self-harm, or who have had a loved one who has experienced those things as well. So we are excited to be here today.
Thank you so much.
And hi, everyone. My name is Katherine Brooks. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work alongside Daria at the David Farber ASPIRE Center. And I primarily work with adults, including adults who are at risk of suicide, have past suicide attempts, or are engaging in things like self-harm. We work together to support them.
So I'm really excited about this topic. We're going to talk about healing across generations, with really focusing on those generational patterns that interfere with seeking mental health. Mm-hmm. And, we work with individuals who are either at risk for having a stroke, who've had a stroke, or who are in the midst of having a second stroke. So, we know that there's so many mental health problems when we bring the whole family together. So I'm really excited to talk with you all. One of the first things that I wanted to ask, we hear this a lot, this concept of breaking generational cycles, or sometimes people say, generational curses around mental health. Can you kind of break that down a little bit for us and kind of tell us what that really means?
Yeah, I'll get us started. When I think about breaking generational cycles, I really think about changing our beliefs, maybe the myths that we have followed, or practices that have led to maybe harmful patterns that are then passed down to our later generations. And one thing that I really like to point out is that it's not ignoring why those patterns were established in the first place. I think we can all talk about what has happened historically, specifically within the Black community, that has led to a lot of the patterns, beliefs, myths that we have about healthcare and mental health care. But breaking those generational cycles means changing those patterns now, because we've recognized that maybe they aren't that helpful, or maybe they are more harmful now and to the later generations. So talking about like the myths or beliefs around seeking therapy, or just talking about mental health. I think we know generationally that's not always been easy for the Black community to do. And so now we're trying to encourage people to not suppress those emotions, to go to therapy, to talk about the things that have been difficult in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And to piggyback off of what Daria is saying, is thinking about how to become more aware of what these patterns are, so we can pick and choose which ones are more helpful and which ones are worth leaving behind, right? And thinking about how breaking these cycles can be very unglamorous. This is kind of things that you're choosing to maybe do differently day to day, right? So pausing before you repeat that phrase that your mom repeated to you, right? And taking a second before you make a choice that could be unhelpful or has historically been unhelpful for you or your family.
And just to kind of elaborate on some of that, when you think about the things that adults in particular don't really realize that they're carrying around, and then I don't know if it shows up when they become parents, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that can show up when we become parents that we don't realize are there until we are in the throes of parenting. So some of those things can look like, sometimes we picture or view love as what we are providing, right? So you have clothes on your back, you have a roof over your head, there's food in the fridge, but we may start to recognize we are having a really hard time saying, I love you, right? Or giving hugs, or giving affection, or giving validation. And that can be a pattern that we don't see until we are in the throes of parenting, right? Because parenting can feel like a mirror, right? So you're looking at this mirror all the time, and that's when we can start recognizing maybe unhelpful patterns or things that are worth working on and resolving.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about what you say. I'm always going to relate it back to what we're doing with stroke. That stroke is so devastating to people,
Mm-hmm.
especially when families have to come together. And sometimes you have the children in the home,
Right.
then you have the grandparent, maybe who've had the stroke, and then the parent. So I think when we start thinking about all of these dynamics and people coming together and having to deal with crisis, what you said really, it really hits hard.
Yeah. Right. And I can imagine those situations are really high stress, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes when we are really stressed out, that's where we can go right into our base patterns, like what's the easiest, the most natural for us to go into. And as Daria was mentioning before, some of those patterns are really helpful, right? That kind of idea of communal caregiving, like parents, grandparents, cousins are in the home, kids are in the home supporting. And then some of those patterns can be unhelpful, like we're having a hard time showing affection, right?
Mhm.
Telling the person next to us that we love them and that we care about them. And so it can show up in a lot of different ways. I can imagine those environments are really difficult to figure out what's helpful and what's unhelpful in the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I am always thinking about too that for adults, when they are experiencing their own crises, especially later in life, they're realizing like what do I need to regulate myself? And that then leads into, okay, now how do I help a young person regulate themselves? And so that's something that I'm always working with families around. It's like, let's think about first, how do you navigate conflict and crises in your own life? And then what do you feel like you need in those moments that you can then help your child recognize and figure out for themselves?
So I know we don't have a lot of time, but if let's say there's a parent who's struggling with getting their child, or maybe they themselves are having some mental health issues, but it's really being seen in their child, maybe through their behavior or through communication. Something's not right, and maybe there's something that's happened in the family that's really shining a light on this. I think people struggle with how to enter into the mental health, how to even ask for help or to get help or to get that person to help.
Mhm.
Can you offer us some ideas on that? I know there's no quick fix, but
Yes, I'll jump in here. Right now, something our field is really working on is identifying those other systems within a child's life that can support them or become early identifiers when a child needs help and then can alert parents. So we're working closely with schools, we're working closely with primary care physicians who have a lot of face time with children, who can then ask questions to then help parents. And also, if we can give them resources, they can easily direct those resources to parents. But if the parent has questions, we invite parents to ask the kid. Again, we work in suicide prevention, and a myth that we hear all the time is, if I ask my kid about suicide, is that going to increase their risk for suicide? And that is not true at all. Asking questions very clearly can actually really help that kid open up and then help determine, okay, what steps should I take to get my child support?
Yeah, and to go off of what Daria was saying, especially like for adults who are seeking support or even with their children, using the resources that you have closest to you, right? So it may not be as accessible, especially if you've never entered into the mental health space, to just go find a therapist. And so I always suggest, what do you have around you that you're comfortable with, right? Is it your hair salon? Is it your barbershop? Is it your place of worship? Is it a friend that you know that works with a therapist or works in the mental health field? And so breaking the silence of what you're going through can really open up way more avenues of support and resource that may not always be one-on-one therapy, but could provide you adequate support as you are navigating getting into mental health and getting the support you or your family is needing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
and ooh,
Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I'll add that, I think something that's important for all adults, even if they don't have children, to know is that how do I just validate a kid? How do I just let a kid know that I hear them rather than trying to completely solve the problem or fix them? It's first, let me listen. Let me hear what this kid needs or what they're experiencing, so then I can lean on my other supports to help get them support.
Wow, that's both of what both of you said is very insightful. The last thing I want us to focus on is the family, and specifically the Black family. What strengths do we want to preserve? Because
Yeah.
I mean, the family is still a strong unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. One of my favorite strengths I've seen and noticed in Black families is like the ability to be humorous and to find joy even in the most difficult of times. And so, even living in Philadelphia, you'll be in neighborhoods that are typically underserved, but they're still
Mhm,
having a block party, right? They're still
mhm,
finding ways to be communal and to support each other. And that's an amazing strength, right? It kind of adds into the idea of just beautiful ability to be resilient and to be able to get through really, really difficult times and maintain, even if we are suffering and it's really difficult, able to get through and do it in a lot of ways with a smile and with jokes and to kind of alleviate some of that stress, which is a really great protective factor I think we have.
mhm,
Yeah, I would say similarly, it's our sense of community, how we rely on not just like our extended family or immediate family, but like we can call on our religious leaders, we can call on our community organizations to seek help and support from. So we don't have to do it alone. We can call our aunties up, we can ask the people that we've spent so much time with for support as well. I think that's something in the Black community we do really well, that we have a strong sense of community. And there's so many people that can also help us in difficult and challenging moments.
So, if someone's listening and they say, you know what, I want to get to this Aspire Center, I want to enter into this space. What do they do? How do they get to you guys?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. All they have to do is call our front desk and start the screening process. They would call the front desk. Our front desk person would like ask them a bunch of questions, help them talk through insurance, and then get them set up with us for an intake. And another thing that's really strong about the Aspire Center is if someone's not a good fit for us and like does not need a suicide specialty clinic, we also work very closely with other community organizations to help someone find a better option. So if again Aspire Center is not a good fit, we have other therapists in the community we refer to, other organizations that we feel really comfortable sending people to.
And we will make sure that we post your contact information. Uh, we are just so happy that you all have shared some of your vast knowledge, and we'd hope let's get together again. Maybe sometime in the future, because I want to continue this conversation. I don't think we talk about mental health enough, and we definitely do not talk about suicide prevention enough. So that's something I want us to talk about. So, lastly, I'm going to give you all the last word. So we started with Dr. Williams. Let's start with Dr. Brooks, soon to be Dr. Brooks. I'm gonna keep saying it. Let's hear some final words.
I will say when we talk about like breaking cycles, being mindful that it is not to villainize, right, or throw away all the amazing things that we have inherited, right? All the things that we have learned from our previous generations, our grandparents, our great grandparents. It is just about optimizing the things that we have learned that are really, really helpful. And like I said earlier, being able to throw away and get rid of the things that are unhelpful or no longer serve us.
Mhm. And my final words would be that talking about mental health is hard and it's challenging and it takes a long time to unlearn some of the patterns that have become so comfortable for us. And so while therapy is really helpful and supportive, it's not a quick fix. It takes time, and that's okay. You're in the right place, and just getting to the therapy office is sometimes enough. So keep going.
Well, thank you so very much. And I look forward to the next time that we get together.
Thank you.
Thank you.